Final hour overdrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, Doug, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles, McLennan. We got Chris Johnston coming up here in a moment. Leafs Flames tonight. It's a big one. Big one for the Maple Leafs. You got to get it together here.
Yeah.
You got to play better. You know, Berube's saying today that they're not happy, that they're ready to show that, you know, they're going to come out with some urgency tonight.
That's what I'm looking forward to seeing. What does that look like for them?
Yeah.
Like for them to absorb the message and be like, okay, guys, joke's over. Let's snap out of this. Who is going to dictate the urgency? We all know who it should be or what it should look like.
Mm-hmm.
But what is the first 10 minutes going to look like where someone says, this is how we're going to get out of this? That's what I'm fascinated to see.
Well,
yeah.
And it's got to be also consistent play. And what I mean by that is you can't have a world beater game tonight and then lay an egg Wednesday and then, hey, we got to get it. We got to have that urge. Like, you can't have that inconsistency. I think what you need to do is just have a consistent effort game. And like, that's where I think Craig Berube's been trying to build this team. We want to play this way every night. And, you know, some nights it's not going to work or whatever, but they haven't had that consistent game. And we talk about playoff hockey or Berube hockey, we'll talk about they've been getting beat in that area too. That's the problem.
Yes.
Not winning the board battles. That's what they want this team to win board battles. They want them to, because it's, you know, it's not Matthews or Marner or Nylander that's going to win those, but it's the other players. Like, why isn't McMahon and you know, guys like
Nyes, exactly.
And, you know, they've cooled off as well recently. So it's the template is what they're supposed to be playing like. It's not there. So they got to figure out, or not figure it out. They just have to execute it.
Yeah, they have to. And that's it. Like, Berube is going to ask them to play a certain style. They have to prove that they can play it and play it consistently.
Right.
And that's a big part of it, exactly, is checking. Like, you have to be willing to get in there and check and push play and move bodies around and move the play up ice.
And Hayes, I talked about it in the first hour. People, stop. I saw some tweets about people questioning the coach or whatever. This is their third coach. This guy knows what the hell he's doing. Stop directing the mess. It's almost like a part of being with Leafs Nation. Sign of trouble, they go right to the coach. Like, oh, this guy, what's this guy doing? They come up with stupid. It's just crazy stuff.
And it's the coach's job to tinker, to try and find the right formula that night. How many coaches have we played for? It's like, don't like what I see, switching it up. Like, that's, you know, it's rare that you have, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a coach just runs it through. You got to find in-game adjustments.
Jamie, we've seen it the last 6 years. Do you know why they have to tinker so much? Is because the top-end guys make so much money that there's not much left behind, so they're just desperately trying to find the right combination. That's why there's so much line juggling.
That's a big part of it.
It is.
And that's why, again, if it's not working, go to the star players first, because they're the ones that have to do the heavy lifting.
But they're constantly trying to get blood out of Yarn Croak and it's like Nick Robertson. Get in there and give me some. Like, that's what they're doing.
It all filters down, because if you can't look at the top two lines and have a belief that they're going to be lethal, it's easy to look at the third and fourth line and say, well, they're not going to scare anybody.
Right.
Like, those third and fourth lines get scary when the other two lines are pulling their weight, and then those two can chip in.
Exactly.
But when you're looking at those two, the third and the fourth line, to elevate the whole team,
and give us something.
Yeah, it's not reasonable. It's not going to happen. Something to chew on, brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. Enjoy $15 lunch at BP, where you get an entree, a side, and a drink, and you'll get it all in 20 minutes or less. A fast lunch doesn't have to be fast food. See you for a $15 fast lunch at your local Boston Pizza.
Looking at this...
Let me just finish this right here quickly. We've been asking, what has been your main concern over the Maple Leafs' recent stretch? 50% saying the Stars' performance, 45% saying lack of urgency, and the rest is goaltending. So goaltending's way down the list.
Yeah, it's still part. Everything.
But goaltending could be a little bit better. But
Sure,
they also carried them in a lot of ways earlier in the season.
You look at that game on Saturday night. Like, if they got a save here and there, like, I didn't think they got completely dummied by the Ottawa Senators.
They were the better team in the third, undoubtedly. The first was sloppy for both teams. I didn't like either team's first period, really. It was kind of just sloppy. They were wading into it.
But
Ottawa was the better team in the second period.
It was one of those games where it's like a goaltender could have stolen the game, and after the game they would have said, we weren't that good tonight, and our goalie won us.
And they did that a lot the first 40 or 50 games of the year.
Yeah.
The goalies did that a lot for them.
Yeah, New
right?
Jersey.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the Ranger game a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, but that's the the formula is you need contributions from everybody, but it has to start at the top.
Yep.
And I would argue the players, like the guys who are playing tonight, that looks like their playoff roster. Am I missing somebody?
I wonder if Pacioretty gets healthy. Could he slide in?
Yeah.
Like, would Pacioretty play?
Lot of time.
So, but I'm
that.
Riley, Carlo, McCabe, Tanev, Benoit, Ekman, Larson.
Yeah, I think they're committed to Benoit over Myers.
Right.
And Hakanpää, I don't think he's going to play. So I think that's your six. I think these are your forwards. I mean, I wonder if Kampf can play his way back in. He's not in the lineup tonight. And Pacioretty, possibly. But
that looks like close to it.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Here's Chris Johnston, our TSN hockey insider. CJ, you're down at the GM meetings, and we'll get to that momentarily, but have to ask you about the Leafs, considering the way things are going up here. Are you expecting a show of urgency tonight? They got a big one with Calgary in town tonight.
I would think so. I mean, you can't guarantee a result, but I think a certain level of effort, urgency is probably the best word. The one you used, would be the minimum you'd expect because, look, there's not that many games left in the season. We're down to the last month or so, and it's a truism. I mean, very few teams have a successful playoff run that don't find a certain level of their play in that final stretch of the regular season, and I think that's really where all the focus is for the Leafs internally now. I mean, we can on the outside we can talk about the division and this and that seedings, but I think for them, where a lot of some of the the frustration of late has come in is just they haven't been able to get to their best level, and so naturally they've gone through this stretch where they haven't picked up many points in the standings, and so given that they've been at home now, there's no sort of schedule related. There's no excuses built in. I think that this has got to be a good game for them, and it's got to be the start of piling those one after another because it's another busy week for them.
CJ, leading into the playoffs, like who do you think is in the spotlight? Like, is it Austin Matthews? Is it Mitch Marner? Like Austin Matthews, he is the captain. He got the C this year. He looks like he's dealing with something. God knows what it is or what he's dealing with or why he's even playing. But is he the guy that's kind of under the gun here for the Leafs? Like, get your game together and lead this team into the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, the beautiful thing about Toronto, there's lots of spotlight to go around, and obviously we could pick a few candidates. But I think for Matthews, he's the player where if he can get right physically and can just rediscover some of his best form, I think that could be a huge difference maker for Toronto. I mean, last year at this time we were talking about him chasing 70 goals. He's not yet to 30, and obviously that some things play into that, including the fact he did miss a bunch of games this season. But we all have seen him enough over 9 seasons here to know that he can on his own be a difference maker. He can be almost a goal a game type of player, and he hasn't been that, I think, for a variety of reasons this season. And so who cares about where his regular season stats end up? I think when I talk about just getting to a certain level over these next 15, 16 games before the playoffs begin, he's probably the top candidate where, it's not as though he's been bad. He just hasn't been himself, I'd say. He hasn't been the best version of himself. And I think a lot of that is the physical limitations he's dealt with multiple injuries this season. But, the hope is that he can, whether that ends up being some rest on the stretch, like I don't know what that looks like. But I do think that could be a huge swing in momentum in the positive direction for Toronto if he can get back there.
CJ, are we through the whole Mitch Marner contract talk? Do you feel like it's going to die down, or is that still going to be, bubbling on the back burner here as we head down to the playoffs?
Tough to say. Like, I don't think the story itself will change or be advanced any noodles in the next few weeks or until the season's over. I mean, I'd be surprised if it was. But it doesn't mean that the conversation's gone away. I think it depends a little bit about, what we see and read in, from Mitch's play to see if it's, something that might be on his mind. I mean, to be fair, before any of us knew about all this, he's been dealing with some of this behind the scenes all season long. And he's had, in a lot of ways, one of his best regular seasons, as a Maple Leaf. So, it does appear that he can obviously compartmentalize whatever needs to go on with the business and then obviously what he needs to do to perform. But, I think that there's certainly the chance it remains at some kind of a talking point. But, it can't be a day-to-day one. I mean, there's only so many ways for it to go. I mean, we kind of understand now that, he was pretty serious about not negotiating during the season. There's no more trade deadlines to be concerned with, really. It's about finishing this season strong, and then obviously the business end will, I think, be revisited at some point once we get to the offseason.
CJ, it seems like a pretty tough happily ever after, though. Like, you go through can you waive to go here, and then to recover from that and end up like in some long-term arrangement together? That seems kind of far-fetched, doesn't it? I just know personally from being a player, as soon as I found out that Carolina was sniffing around and players in warm-up were saying you might be coming on the bus with us after, I was like, get me the hell out of here. It seems like it's a far reach to think of this as a kind of marriage after this, don't you?
Well, I think that what's different in this case is it wasn't like, the conversation started with the Leafs saying, we want to sign you. So, I don't think that this was a case where the Leafs, sometimes I guess maybe as a player when you hear your name and those kind of rumors, it might catch you off guard. In this case, I think the Leafs really want to do whatever they can to keep Mitch Marner. I don't for a second believe that hasn't been the case all along. It's they got to a point where, they're approached by Carolina with an opportunity at a time when they just have an uncertain future with the player. So, I don't know that it's a tough happily ever after because, in this case, it's really Marner and his camp that are driving where things are going. So, I don't know how that conversation, the fact it's public, I don't know how any of this may change anything. It probably does. I mean, two things remain true. Mitch Marner is playing for his hometown team. He's got a chance to be a legacy player. I mean, he probably already has a legacy already, but he's got a chance to do something special here if he wants to resign in Toronto, and he's told everyone that that's what he wants to happen. So, I still think that there's a way this all ends up in a place where the Leafs are happiest, which would be with him signing an extension, but it's got to be on his terms, and right now he doesn't want to negotiate as the season's going along.
Well, and it may just be a coincidence, and he's not alone, but the last 3 games have been the worst 3-game stretch he's had in a long time. Yeah. Like Utah, Florida, Ottawa, not good for Mitch. And
really put himself under the gun for the playoffs coming up, too. Like, I'll be fascinated to watch every single show.
Right. Well, because it sounds like he could sign a deal right now, and then whatever happens in the playoffs has no bearing on his future. He knows he's here, and he's signed, and he's choosing not to do that. And, at times it gets referenced, well, his agent, Darren Ferris, he prefers to do that, get his players to free agency, et cetera.
That's such nonsense, Hayes. If you want a team, like you got a situation that you like, and you're playing with players that you like, I don't understand that comment. He likes to walk his players to free agency. That's ridiculous.
And Sam Bennett's his guy, right, CJ? And it sounds like Bennett may have told him, actually, give Bill Zito a call here. Let's try to figure this out. Like, that's what it sounds like. All of a sudden, the player is dictating what's going to happen and not his agent, which is generally the way it goes, especially with superstars.
Exactly. I mean, and I say this with respect to agents, but agents work for players.
Exactly.
And obviously, agents present players with a whole range of ways to approach situations, but, ultimately, it's a player that calls it. And I think Mitch Marner's not a kid anymore. We sort of think of him that way because we've seen him grow up here with this team and in this organization. But, he's a veteran in the league. He's one of the better players in the league. He's going to be one of the highest paid players when all this is said and done. And he's got to, to determine, while working with his agent and his family and everyone that's important to him, what's best for him. But, I don't think that ultimately you can, hide behind an agent. I'm not for a second suggesting Mitch is, but we can't pin this strategy on an agent. I mean, an agent can tell you a lot of things, but really it's the player that has to live with, whatever arrangement he makes wherever he wants to play. And so, I think ultimately, we have to judge Mitch's intentions by what he does. And, look at lots of players have, including last year, Sam Reinhart, who has a different agent, but played out the season in Florida, had a great year. They won a Stanley Cup, and he managed to sign his deal in that 5 or 6 day window from between Game 7 and July 1st. I mean, there's lots of those sort of stories that are at the ready here that lead me to believe there's still a really distinct possibility Mitch signs in Toronto. It's just hard to know at this time how it's going to play out because there's as we talked about last Monday, I mean, they haven't really gotten anywhere with discussions because Mitch and his camp don't want to have those discussions.
with Chris Johnston, our TSN hockey insider. So you're down at the GM meetings.
Breakout groups.
Breakout groups. Yeah, you got everyone's got to break out. You know, make sure the morning group, then you mix it up a little bit in the afternoon. The length of the season, my understanding is that's a topic of discussion, you know, with the Olympics and World Cups and all that. And this has always been, I think, an evergreen chat. Like, when should you start the year? When can it finish? How do you make TV partners happy? Is there anything going to come out of that? Is there any reason to believe that the league could shift in any way in terms of scheduling in the future?
Well, I certainly think it's possible. I mean, the big thing with that is that's an issue that has to be agreed upon by both the NHLPA and the league. And, you know, we're at a time right now where the collective bargaining talks with those two bodies are happening. And, you know, you're trying to thread the needle. I mean, look, I think everybody that loves hockey loves that Four Nations tournament. And so no one's complaining about that break. But, you know, the result of having events like that, of course, is you have more compressed schedules. You just have more teams doing what the Leafs are doing this week, four games in a week. You know, which is a lot to ask of the top players. And then you couple on top of that they're talking about going to that 84-game season, you know, which I think it can literally be interpreted as a straight revenue play. I mean, the NFL went to 17 games from 16 in the last few years, and you know, it would be done while shortening the preseason. So, you know, it's not as though in the next few days I think there'll be clarity there, but it's definitely a discussion point behind the scenes about what makes the most sense. And I do think ultimately we'll probably end up in a place where there's more regular season games, way less of a preseason, and you know, they're going to try to find ways to stretch out the schedule where they're not taxing the athletes quite to the same degree. But I mean, that's a tough Rubik's cube. It's hard to do everything by maximizing how many games you play, but not playing too deep into the summer. You know, you've only have the calendar you have to work with. But you know, I do think that you're going to see some shift there, you know, once they reach those discussions with the players and the owners.
What about, never mind 84, did anyone bring up the idea there needs to be 70 games played? Like, would that just be flushed down the toilet immediately?
I mean, the second part of that question would be, do you want to put, you know, 14% of your paycheck taken off the top? I mean, you know, as you know, I mean, players are only paid for the regular season games, that they're only paid officially to do their job in the regular season. So if you shorten the number of games and thereby limit how much money is made by the teams in ticket revenue, I don't think anyone's lining up to take a pay cut. I know I wouldn't be.
I don't know how you're going to add 2 games.
I think it's ridiculous to add one more. The schedule alone, watching how much hockey these guys play, it's insane.
Such a physical sport, too.
Add in the Olympics next year.
That's what we're saying.
Like, to me, it's just
how do you add
much.
games?
It's just too much. But I don't. It's money.
No, I get it.
Telling
it's
people
money.
You want to get to a $120 million cap here in the next 5. When do you think it'll be 120? Probably within the next 10 years, for sure. Right.
I think it's supposed to be 110 by 3 years.
Okay, so let's say 7 years, just to be conservative.
Yeah.
They're not cutting games. They're going to add.
No, I hear you, but I mean, listen, they don't care about the average viewer's viewing experience, clearly, because if it's going to be a watered-down league and they're going to expand and they're going to play more games in shorter time, you're just going to get a worse product. You're going to get players who are going to miss games in the future. Like, that's what's going to happen.
Load management.
Load management eventually will arrive to some extent.
Embiid and street
Paul
clothes.
George is done for the year now. Now you can start podcasting again. I guess that's a positive.
Jeez.
But I don't know,
yeah,
CJ.
Then you're going to be fining the teams like they are in the NBA for not dressing guys on certain nights and things like that.
Right. Which is a circus. I mean, the NBA it's gone too far the other way, where the tanking and the load management and everything is a real concern. And the NHL isn't dealing with that right now. And I get it, it's two different entities where the NBA's TV deal is so exorbitant.
Right.
It's like the NFL. It's the same thing, where the NHL is gate-driven. It's more regional.
Right.
So it's a business. It's tough. But I don't know. I don't know how the fans benefit, I guess, is where I would be at. Like, I don't see how the product's going to be better. And ultimately, when the NHL pops, CJ, is in the playoffs, you need to make sure players are healthy, ready to go, feeling good, because you do not want to mess with that part of your program.
Yep.
I guess the best hockey going.
I was going to say, not to open another can of worms, but if you're going to add games, to me, adding some sort of play-in or wild card, whatever you call it.
Right.
To me, I think I would add a little bit more to the playoffs. I know you can't go too crazy, but you know, I know when baseball gets around and like those wild card games are exciting at the start of the playoffs. I think in a 32-team league that might be growing again at some point in the near future. I mean, I'd be adding more playoff teams before I'm adding more regular season games.
What's the update on that, CJ? Because if they bring 2 more teams into this league, you're going to be watching the East Coast Hockey League, man. Like, what the hell is up with that?
Oh, more jobs for everyone. Oh, aren't the players supposed to like that or what?
More. I'm talking about the quality of play.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, there's 8 guys on every team right now that shouldn't be in the league. What's it going to look like if 2 more teams are in the league?
Well, I guess the good news is it's not happening in anyone's foreseeable future, but probably within 5 or 10 years, you're looking at a couple more teams. It gets just so much money when you look at what franchises are going for. If you're an existing owner, the way the league does the expansion fees is they split those among all the current owners. It's a lot of money to say no to, and I think that's ultimately why they probably won't. But there's nothing of that nature that I'm aware of coming anytime in the next 2 or 3 years.
How about sniffing around the reseeding or the playoff seeding, 1-8, all of that fun stuff, or even like go get crazy and go 1-16? I know the travel would be crazy, but I mean, to me, there has to be an appetite to at least look at it.
You could do 2-3-2s.
Yeah, no, you could. I mean, I don't know. It's just been so traditional, but if you want to try and get outside the box, go 1-8 or 1-16. And I know, hey, it could be LA versus Florida in the first round or whatever, but I don't know. I think the league needs a refresher, something there. I guess the appetite might not be there at the NHL level. Or
I really think the fans are sick of they wanted to build these rivalries up. I think the fan bases in all areas of the league are sick of the same matchups in the first round.
Well,
that's where the adjusting the play-in would come into play, though, right? Like CJ, what you're saying is if you're going to have a 9 and a 10 seed play their way in,
right?
How that can't really jive with a divisional 2 versus 3. You'd probably be forced into a conventional 1 versus 8,
right?
Which I think would benefit the fans greatly.
Exactly. At minimum, you'd have to have 2 conferences, or you could go crazy, like Noodles is saying, and do the whole league in the same. But I think there's too many challenges logistically with that. But yeah, I think it just makes sense. Look, one of the great series of the first round is probably going to be Dallas and Colorado this year because they're 2 teams that loaded up that are great teams. Either could win the cup, but it shouldn't be a first round series. Like that's at the end of the day, like that team's that good. Like one of them being out at the end of the first round, it just doesn't seem right when clearly some lesser teams are probably going to find their way through just because of the kind of the janky way it works with the divisions.
Do you know how incredible it would be if it was like no conferences, 1 versus 16?
I know.
Do you know what we would be looking at daily?
Okay.
For starters, it's not right now, and a lot of this is point percentages, and I'm just looking at the standings.
You mean the matchups?
It could be Edmonton-Toronto in the first round as like the 8 versus 9.
Wow.
Like that, because they're right there right now. Edmonton's got 82 points, the Leafs have 81. They're right in the middle. Like it could filter out any which way.
But just as of right now.
But you could have a scenario where you're looking at it, counting down the games, saying there's a chance the Leafs play the Oilers in the first round.
Who doesn't want that?
That would be so phenomenal.
2-3-2.
Yeah, it would be so phenomenal. Yeah, exactly. Go to 2-3-2 like the World Series, and you take out the concerns of all the travel.
I just feel like there's something there that could reinvigorate.
Yeah. Send them, get in there, CJ, and tell the GMs.
Why don't you bring OverDrive down there for a breakout group? Do you think they would take us seriously if we wheeled in there and Jerry had a meeting and said, we're bringing in some guys for a secret breakout group, and we
walk in?
We walked in.
Yeah.
Not happening. Would be... That's what the GM's meeting need for a spice up.
Yes.
Forget the playoffs. That would be unreal.
That would be great. Imagine the GMs in the league having to listen to us spitballing ideas.
You're gonna want to hear this.
Well, enjoy yourself down there, CJ. We'll see what comes out of it news-wise, and a lot of activity, I'm sure, on SportsCenter and online throughout the next few days. So we'll catch you there. Thank you for doing this, as always.
All right. Enjoy the game tonight, guys.
Yep. You got it. Chris Johnston, our TSN Hockey Insider. Again, the Insiders down in Florida at the GM meetings. Catch them on SportsCenter, tsn.ca. I love the idea of mixing it up. Every once in a while, it should just be mandatory, right?
Well, I think
like politics, just flush people in and out. We need to mix things up every once in a while.
It would be nice, but I feel like that seeding 1-16 would be
It would get people
Dude.
excited. Like,
Oh,
people
it'd be
would
so incredible.
jacked.
Because the variety, like every night it would change. You could go from the 12 seed to the 9 seed in like 2 games, and then you're playing like a completely different team and system.
And the other thing, too, is the league has never expanded playoffs. It's always, there's 16 teams.
Right.
It used to be 21 teams in the league. Now it's 32.
That's right.
You do need to expand playoffs. So it might be 1 versus 18.
It could be. Yeah, it could be. Or some scenario play in,
Right.
like, 17 through 20 play in to try to get in or some capacity to that. Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's how teams, like the Leafs used to get into the playoffs in the 80s, and they were
Under 500.
terrible teams, and they'd be in because
The Norris division.
they'd sneak in.
I love the old names, too.
The best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Smythe
the best.
and the Norris.
Smythe and the Norris. And what else do they have? The Adams?
The
So
Adams.
Adams division.
And then I'm trying to remember the last
Clarence?
one.
Was it Clarence? No, Clarence
No.
Campbell, because he was Campbell, right? It was
Wales?
Campbell. It was Wales and Campbell were the two conferences.
Yes.
The
Yes,
Norris
sir.
division, the Adams division. What were the
Patrick
other?
division.
Patrick
and Smythe.
and Smythe, I think
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
All right, we sent Al's brother out into the city with another pair of Leaf tickets, and you have to guess where he's hiding for your chance to win them. Here is Al's brother's first clue of the week.
Hey, OverDrive fans, it's Monday, which means we got a new set of clues to help you get yourself a pair of Leafs and Flyers tickets for the March 25th game. You got to find out where in the city Al's brother is hiding this week, and here is your Monday clue. Now that the weather is warming up, I found myself taking some nice strolls throughout the downtown core, and this week I've stumbled into one of my favorite spring spots in the city.
What is this spring spot in the city?
All I can think of is High Park to look at the trees.
Yeah, that could be it. I guess. You think Al's brother's sitting
No,
in the
he's not going
trees
for-
in Hyde Park?
Dude, I
It's a
guarantee
card
you
shop
he's at
somewhere.
Harvard.
That's what it is.
It's a card
It's
shop
a card shop that's popped up.
on King West or something.
Because he
He's
was
at
there
I
this
guarantee
weekend.
you he's at High Park. That's the only spring spot I know.
Yeah, I mean, those trees are very impressive, but
Yeah.
like Al's brother couldn't pick that out. He doesn't have a clue what's going on in Hyde Park. I saw him post something today online. He was out with his buddies getting gooned at like 12:30 in the afternoon
He was
Why?
for
hammering
St.
afternoon
Patty's.
beers.
Yeah, he was having a great time.
Good for him.
Tune in tomorrow for another clue. The first caller through on Friday with the correct location wins a pair of tickets to see Leafs Flyers March 25th. Find Al's brother is brought to you by McAlpine Ford in Aurora. Our family, the Ford family, and you. Full details at tsn1050.ca. Johnson Wagner coming up on McIlory winning the playoff today. J.J. Spaun, what he saw out of him, what he makes of the players, and we are 3 weeks away from Masters Week. 3 weeks away.
Wow.
We love it. Johnson coming up in our best bets later in the hour. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, best bets later in the hour. I enjoyed Monday morning golf, man. Like, I was jacked. I got my kids to school. I flew home. They had already teed off, so I missed the tee ball. I turn on Golf Channel this morning. It was on TSN, too. And J.J. Spaun is in the rough. His second shot.
Well, dude, we
white
talked
pants.
about it. Watching a guy step up there and just bomb a 347 drive that just lands center cut. He actually got screwed by 10 yards because it went in a sprinkler.
That's right. No, it hit a divot, a massive divot, and it rolled in and out of the divot. McIlroy's drive there on 16. What a tee-ball, man. I think the playoff was over right there when McIlroy hit that drive.
Yeah.
Here's a guy who's won on tour. We saw him in Montreal. We see him at the RBC Canadian Open every year. It's great to have him on from NBC and the Golf Channel. Here's Johnson Wagner. How you doing, Johnson?
I am doing great, guys. It's nice to be back with you. And I heard earlier y'all were having some conversation about tying your shoe on a urinal. I'd like to weigh in on that. At some
Dude,
point
tell
if
me it's
possible.
okay. Tell us right now, is it
Oh,
okay?
It's not.
I absolutely think that is the most disgusting thing ever, and I don't know what would be what's wrong with your head to think that that's okay.
Well,
Great question.
Johnson, I think you're my kind of guy, dude. We've locked eyes. We're guys. If you're just putting your foot up there with a shoe on and tying your shoe, there's no harm, no foul. You're not going into an area that's going to affect anything in your life, man. Come on.
Agree to disagree on that one.
Okay.
Exactly.
This is why Johnson Wagner, he knows what he's talking about here, man.
Exactly.
This guy, he's a reasonable human being because supports that play. We had a poll up online. I'd say about 1 in 5 support that play. So you got to understand that, Johnson. Like every fifth person you meet in life, they are a tie your shoe on a urinal guy.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind as you move forward.
They're probably not washing their hands when they come out of that bathroom either.
No chance. Man. No chance. We have a theory on this show that the playoff ended this morning when McIlroy hit his first tee shot on 16. That he hit that so perfectly. J.J. Spaun, in my opinion, looked at that and said, I just got to get this off the tee and out there somewhere to keep up with this guy. And he was chasing him right off the hop. Do you think it could have been different this morning if Spaun got the honor and possibly hit his tee ball first?
Yeah, I mean, I think when McIlroy had the honor, he certainly set the tone of the playoff and basically said to JJ without saying it, come and get me because I'm here. It was impressive. It was chilly. It was cold this morning out there, and that was an absolute beast of a drive that he hit.
What do you think happened on 17? There was visual of JJ looking in Rory's bag, and he saw that the 9-iron was in his hands. Is that a simple case of Spaun saying, one of the best players in the world just grabbed the 9-iron, I got to grab an 8, and he just flew it over the green? Is that what happened there?
Yeah, I mean, I talked to Rory about it. He took a lot of speed off of that 9-iron. I said he was trying to hit a 147 shot, and I think Rory generally hits his 9-iron like 160-plus range. And so I think JJ hit the right club. I just think he caught the wrong wind gust.
Yeah, because he was floored, man. Like he couldn't.
He was asking where the golf ball was.
He looked confused.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned it, Johnson. Like the wind. Like how serious is the wind though to hit an 8-iron on that hole? Like that's kind of crazy. When he pulled that 8-iron, I couldn't believe. I was not surprised he hit it in the water. I guess is the best way to put it.
It was 131 yards, and I actually went out and hit that shot a couple hours later. Hit an 8-iron, and I came up short of the green. I just think it depended on the type of gust you got, and he got a bad one.
Yeah, we're watching you right now. You're out there with McIlroy, which is really incredible. I mean, we talked to you after the U.S. Open when Bryson went out there with you, and you guys hit that sand shot. Like, this is how cool is this, Johnson? Like, you're a guy, you're a tour pro. You've won on tour. Obviously, the players have a lot of respect for you. But the idea that Rory sticks around afterwards and goes back to 17T to hit golf balls with you, how incredible was that experience?
It was amazing, and Rory and I've got a good relationship, and I basically had our one of our ladies at the Golf Channel who's kind of in charge of getting players and stuff. I said, hey, if there's any chance when he comes to the set, is there any way that you can ask him from me to come out and caddy for me while I hit his shot? And he said yes, and I was just unbelievably honored and surprised that he came out, and it just says a lot about the kind of person he is.
Do you think he might be favored going into the Masters, Johnson? I think that putt was big for him on Sunday to see that putt go in because it just got in the right side. And for him to have two big wins, like going into the Masters, I have no idea why he hasn't had success there in the past. But do you think he could be the favorite over Scottie?
I do currently. I mean, I think both of them are intending to play the Houston Open here in a couple weeks. And unless Scottie goes out and takes him down in the final group Sunday, yeah, I think the momentum's with Rory. I think he will be the favorite.
With Johnson Wagner. Yeah, in terms of Scheffler, he's in the hunt to an extent. He's played pretty well the last 2 weeks. He won these two tournaments the last year, and at that point it was like he's gone. And then won the Masters, he won at Memorial, he won at Harbour Town. It was like you couldn't slow this guy down.
Something's not the same though this year.
Is it the surgery? Is it the late start? What is your theory on what's up with Scheffler?
Yeah, I mean, Scottie's he's a creature of habit, and he works his tail off in the off season to get better and prepare. And he had, I think it was 3-4 weeks where he couldn't really touch a club, and I think he's going to be fine. I'm not worried about Scheffler. It's just taking him a little bit longer to get into the winning ways.
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess he was just such a beast last year that it set a tone that almost impossible to replicate, right? Like he had 9 wins last year. Basically every elevated event, Scheffler won it.
It makes you think about Tiger, though. Tiger did that every year.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's true.
I think we're still in for a big Scottie year. I mean, if I had to guess right now, I'd give him 4 wins, including a major championship this year, and I think that'd be a heck of a year, obviously.
Yeah, it sure would with Johnson Wagner. Let me ask you, before we let you go, about Corey Connors. 2 really good weeks. T5 last week at Bay Hill, top 10 this week. He plays Augusta really, really well. Like, what does he have to do, in your opinion, to get over the top? Like, to go low on Sunday and find a way to win one of these?
I think it comes down to the putter with Corey. I mean, the way he played Sunday at Bay Hill, I mean, he made 15 straight pars before finally getting that birdie on 16. And it's with the putter, specifically, I think he runs out of pace. I think he's a little bit afraid of running it by and having that 3-4 footer. So I'd like to see him get better from the close range, give a little more speed on those putts, and to where he can, start running away with golf tournaments if he can just hole a few more of those 10 to 15 foot range putts.
Johnson, when you're in Jacksonville, did you get to the Bonefish Grill down there on A1A, or where did you hang out?
Yeah, I was busy. I was on the early show and the late show, so I was hanging out at the Courtyard Marriott Hotel bar when I got back at about 9:00 every night.
Okay. Well, you got to get McGinley and Brandel out there. You hit those 2 chip shots last night.
They were good, man. You're getting your groove back.
Perfect, man. They cannot be chirping you anymore. You got to get them out there and tell them to start hitting some shots.
Yeah, that's the plan. I'm definitely gonna make that. I try to make that happen at the PGA Championship at Quail Hollow, my hometown. I'll work on getting them out for one night and see what they got out there.
Okay, good luck, man. I know it's been a busy one, especially going back to work this morning. We appreciate you doing this, and we'll catch up again down the road.
I look forward to it. You guys are the best. Have a good evening.
You got it, Johnson Wagner.
See, and he believes
NBC
in us.
The Golf Channel believes in us. Marriott Courtyard, just hanging out. I love it.
And he's
busy
a handshake guy, too.
Yes, handshake guy and a no urinal.
He knows an old school hanging out, too.
He's a legend. He's such a good guy. Loves the Canadian Open. Him and Dillette are really good buddies.
Yeah,
right.
awesome.
And GD was down there. All the boys were down there doing a great job. And
When did GD get rid of the mustache?
He didn't have it when we were in Montreal.
He looks better without it. I like it. He looks 20 years younger without that.
He looks
he
so
does.
much younger.
Yeah.
Like, so much younger. But the mustache was like, it didn't suit.
Well, it was what do
Rolly
you
fingers.
call
It
that?
was like the
Wyatt Earp.
Yeah. Who was
the pitcher, Rolly Fingers.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm thinking of another guy. Who was the guy? Brimley or whatever.
Edward Brimley?
No, I can't remember his name.
It's
Anyway, it
just
doesn't matter.
But it had like the duster with the twist.
Yeah, he had the
end.
twist going, like a wax kind
Yes.
of thing. Yeah, no, it looks better without it.
Oh, it just looks different. Like he looks like a kid again.
Interesting. Like McIlory and Scheffler. We'll see who else can kind of kick around come the Masters. Because the live guys are going to show up too. Like Bryson's going to come in hot.
Yeah.
And Koepka's going to be there. He's going to come in hot.
I hope Morikawa shows up coming in hot and nobody wants to talk to him.
Well, what I will say is I appreciate that once he said, I don't owe anyone anything, he doubled down on that.
Yeah.
Like,
He
I
didn't
actually have
come
an
back the
appreciation
next
for
day
that.
and say, I apologize to everyone that I said I don't owe anything to. He doubled down and said, I really don't owe you guys anything.
And called out people. Like Rocco Mediate and Chambly and McGinley, your boy Paul McGinley. Like, he just said, anyone that's got a problem with me, that's a you problem. Like, I think he's in the wrong. I think he should speak. J.J. Spaun just had his heart broken. This was the biggest moment of his life. He stepped up and talked, did media afterwards, podium, and Colin Morikawa has won multiple majors. He's got millions in the bank. You can't stick around and talk.
I will say one thing about the view from Morikawa. It's like, you saw what he did. You're going to write what you write. Do you really need to ask him? It's like, I used to see in the Maple Leaf locker room, the guy that coughed up the pizza in the third period that led to the leading goal.
Yeah.
And all the media would go right to him and say, what'd you see there on that play? And it's like, come on, guy, you saw what you saw.
Well, I know.
Did you really need me to say, I threw a pizza and I coughed the puck up?
They need the soundbite, though.
I know, but do you really need the athlete?
I think
you need to hear it.
I do think it's different, though. In hockey, it's so fast.
Right.
And then the other guy's got to capitalize on that pizza for it to be a story.
For Morikawa's case, they're going to say, you chunked the chip and you bogeyed 16. What happened on the chip? And he's going to say, I chunked it.
No, I know, but like,
it is him. He's the only guy who controlled it.
It is
nobody else. It wasn't a team sport.
Yeah, like you could get into the weeds, which is golf nerd stuff, but you could ask him, what club did you hit? Why did you get it high in the air? Why didn't you try to bump and run that or whatever? Or furthermore, when Henley last week, when he eagles there, do you think you're like there are things you can ask him? He may not
I
give a great
guess
answer
as a
on it.
golfer, you can have a quick statement prepared if you really don't want to deal with anybody, and you're going to say, "I'm just going to say this, and I'm going to leave." I didn't play well enough today. I didn't have the feel with my wedges, and I couldn't putt very well, and I stunk the joint.
Yeah.
End of story, and walk out.
And congrats to
Yes,
and
that's
Russell
better than
Henley.
nothing, I guess.
But he bolted and then doubled down on it.
And then he's like, I don't know anybody anything. And then the next day they're like, you sure you don't want to reset on that? He's like, no, I'm not.
But I
actually credit the fact that he didn't buckle afterwards.
Me too.
He kind of stuck to
PGA
it.
wouldn't have to. With PGA,
They can't do
PR
anything
probably
to
called
these
him and
guys,
said, "Can
man.
you just?"
They're scared to
They can't
death
do
of
anything to
these
these guys. Like Morikawa, he's not doing it. Wilford Brimley was the guy I was looking for.
Okay.
Wilford Brimley.
Look at that.
Couldn't remember his name. That's Graham Dillette, though. Do you know that guy in that picture is like 48 years old? Yes, he is. Like, cause it's like B. Arthur, man. Like you in reverse, because you always thought like, how old is
Benjamin
Wilford?
Buttons.
Yeah,
This guy though,
Wilford Brimley was not as old as you think.
wasn't he in like Murder She Wrote?
Yeah, Murder She Wrote. Was he
Yeah.
Magnum PI?
Yeah,
He might have-
I don't know if he was,
in that.
but he was in Murder She Wrote. Matlock, guys like that. Like,
Matlock was a great show. Great show.
it was.
All right, best bet still to come. Leafs Flames tonight. We'll tee that up. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Leafs money line, William Nylander, anytime goal scorer tonight, paying plus 205. Willie loves playing the Flames. Born in Calgary. Played them he's put up big numbers against the Flames throughout his career. I think he gets on the board tonight. And the Leafs, like, they've got to play better. We've been talking about it all day. The city's on edge. Like, people are really not happy with the way things are going with this team right now because the division's right in front of you. They're only 4 points up.
Yep.
Like, they've blown 2 leads in the last 3 games they've played. It's right there. You still play Florida twice. You got 16 games left. Snap out of it. You're in a slump.
Yeah.
That's what they're in. They're in a
Get on
slump.
a
It's a
roll.
bad slump, but they got to snap out of it. Today's best bets powered by FanDuel. Live same-game parlays are now available for every NHL game on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly. 18+, physically located in Ontario.
They're nervous. I told you, the fan base is nervous. They're like, what are you guys going to have in store? We thought things were different this year. You play different. It looks different. There's a different coach.
Different captain.
And now we've had some big games in the last 10 days, and you don't look different.
Yeah, you got to snap out of it. And ultimately, fans just want them to win. Fans are bracing for it to go wrong so that they can be prepared for it. Unfortunately, that's the reality of being a Leaf fan.
I told you
but
earlier,
you don't
though-
want that to continue.
No, I told you earlier, I don't mind a little blip right now.
Yeah, I know. There's
Because
lots
you
of
can
teams
turn
going
it
through
around and go on to a heater leading into the playoffs.
Yep.
I would love to see it, and it's a good spot to be in.
Yep. No, they can still salvage the division. They can feel good about their game going into the playoffs.
But you drop 2 in a row. You got a tough game Wednesday night. You drop this one tonight, then you're going to have a
Well,
full-blown
I mean, the
panic.
rest of the week you can make an excuse for everything. The thing is they need to worry about their game because everybody else has an excuse to play hard too. Calgary does, the Rangers do, Colorado, and as I said, Saturday I think is Nashville. They want to play spoiler.
Yeah.
What the Leafs need to do is go, we have an opportunity here. What are we going to do about it? That's really how it has to be viewed.
Big time.
Because everybody else has an excuse to play hard or play for any other type of reason. So you gotta have some games here.
Well, and Tampa's in action tonight. Leafs are tied with Tampa, played the same amount of games. You're playing for home ice. You're playing for a lot of different things. And Tampa's at home against Philly. They're in a good spot to win that game tonight. Jersey, Columbus tonight. Got LA and Minnesota. Minnesota's starting to fade badly.
Yeah.
Like, they're not out of the woods yet in terms of, like, St. Louis maybe catching them.
Dude, they were
don't
right
snap out
behind
of it.
Winnipeg at one point.
They were.
That's right. And
They
they're
didn't lose on the road. That's why they had that road streak going. And then they've hit the ditch. But,
they got a -10 goal differential.
yeah.
That's not a good sign.
Nope. Like, it all evens out there. Like, I don't know if you look at it, when the playoffs start, it's rare that a minus goal differential is a playoff team.
Mm-hmm.
Rare.
Well, the Rangers are at even.
Yeah.
Ottawa's now up to +8. The Leafs are +13. You've got in the West, St. Louis is even in terms of goal differential, and they're right there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll see. All right, should be a good one tonight. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today. TV, radio, podcast, web, we appreciate that. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at
Shoes up on the urinal and get it done. 4 p.m.
We'll chat then.